On this video, we're going to go over what I think about towing with a Ridgeline, a Honda Ridgeline truck. This is the second generation truck, and I've been really happy with it. And after towing with it for 2 years, two different campers, I'll have to tell you what I've done and how I like what I do like about it and what I don't like about it. And hopefully this doesn't raise too big of a can of worms. I know there's a lot of people out there that think certain ways about towing. They think that the bigger is the better. Sometimes bigger is not the best way to go, and in my particular situation, it's not. So with that being said, I'm going to go over a few things here that we've done. What I've come to the conclusion is that some people want to have a nice big truck and you can compare gas mileage and everything else, and some of us don't want a big truck all the time. So that's what it comes down to. If you have a big truck, by all means pull with that big truck. But if you're like me, you like that car drive when you're driving around, you don't want that bad gas mileage all the time, and you want to have a smaller vehicle, then Ridgeline has worked out really well for me, with a few exceptions. And just show you here, this is my little camper that I pull with it, and I've had a really good success rate with it. Like I say, you hardly even know it's behind you. This thing only weighs less than 1,000 pounds, and I was towing it at 65. I was actually going up to 75 at some point, 70, 75 down the roads in Texas, and no problems whatsoever pulling it behind you. So on the other end of the spectrum, this vehicle here, this is my 19 FD Rockford Geo Pro, and this weighs right in at about 3,200 pounds without anything in it. So as long as you keep the weight under that about 3,500 pounds, don't put more than a couple hundred pounds in it. Be careful with your water loads. This stays at that 80% of your towing value, and that's the key right there. My Ridgeline is rated for 5,000 pounds, and that, like I say, if you only have 2 passengers in the Ridgeline and your colon is behind you, as long as you keep that weight down, you're doing okay with it. Now the key here is you have to maintain a speed probably under 65 miles per hour. That just seems like a safer speed with this size camper with your Ridgeline, and it works out a lot better. One thing I will recommend is that you have a weight distribution hitch. And now some people will say that that's not something they want to put on a Honda, because the Honda is it's not a frame on, or body on frame, it's actually a unibody. But in the second generation of the Ridgeline, they don't tell you can't do it, and I would highly recommend it. It controls the sway and control. I've never had a control issue. It's been a little underpowered on hills, but I would highly recommend not hesitating. If you don't want to have a full-size truck and you want to go with the Ridgeline or a smaller vehicle that has that 5,000 towing rating, then I'd say go for it. But be careful when you're on these weights on these campers. If you're approaching 3,500 and you're going more toward the 4,000 range, I think you're kind of pushing that envelope, and I think I'm right at the edge with this one at 32 dry weight. So that's kind of my opinion on this thing. Again, hope I didn't open a can of worms. I'm sure I'm going to get different opinions. Obviously, if you can tow with a big truck, by all means, tow with a big truck. If you got one, tow it. But if you want a small vehicle, then go ahead and tow with that smaller vehicle. If that's what you have and you want to tow with that, then do that. And just understand that you can't quite do the things. You can't run out wide open at 70, 75 mile an hour. You got to be careful with wind direction, a few other things. But control problem's not an issue if you use that weight distribution hitch. Again, you have to be careful with your water. I never fill my freshwater tank more than half full. I'd be careful how much I have in my brown tank, in my black tank. Just don't want to have a lot of weight added on. And another thing you want to do is make sure that your vehicle is not overloaded. In my case, I have me and my wife, and occasionally I'll have a grandchild with us. But if you loading that vehicle up full, I mean, if you've got 5 passengers in that vehicle, then you're pushing the boundaries too. So just something to keep in mind. And like I say, this is my opinion on this, and I know a lot of people want to be relieved of if they want to buy a smaller vehicle. And like I say, it can be done. You just have to make a few precautions, and it's going to get you be a little slower getting to your destination. Now, another thing I will suggest is that if you're going to take this thing out, I take this thing out across country maybe once every 2 years, or maybe at the most once a year. If that's all you're taking the large trips with, then that works out pretty well for you. Now, but if you're planning on going out on the road and going long distance almost every year, 2 or 3 times a year, then probably a big truck is where you want to go with. You don't want to go with the smaller truck. And another thing I do with my Ridgeline is I go above and beyond when it comes to the transmission fluid change. I've changed mine every 26,000 miles, even though it's not recommended for that. Now, I do have the 6-speed transmission, which is a little cheaper to have it changed, but I'm not sure if maybe if I had the 9-speed transmission, if that would be maybe better and wouldn't have to be changed as often. But I myself with the 6-speed change it out every 26,000 miles, and you can tell it gets a little sluggish till that fluid's getting burned up a little bit, and you want to change that out. As long as I've done that, I've never had a problem. I've had one overheat problem. That was when my transmission fluid was exceeding that time limit. So that's about all I have for this video. I just wanted to let you know what my opinion were after towing with this vehicle for 2 years. I have confidence to say that it can be done safely, and you just have to be careful of a few things. And that's all I have for this video, and we'll talk to you again on another RV short.